All right. Well, thank you, Josh and Eileen, for joining me today. Thank you, especially during, I know you guys are very busy, and to have you participate in this for the Oregon Cattlemen's Association is much appreciated. As you know, our ranchers have gone through some really tough times this past year and dealt with a number of challenges. And the Farm Service Agency has delivered important programs for our members and for ranchers across the state. So thank you for that, and thank your team as well. I know you guys have been hard at work. I just wanted to start off this interview. Could you both please introduce yourself and let the listeners know a little bit about your background and your current title with FSA?
Sure. My name is Josh Hanning. I'm the current acting state director for the state of Oregon. I've been for the Farm Service Agency. I've been with the agency for 21 years. And my background is I come from a farming and ranching background myself. My wife and I have a small cow-calf operation in the Columbia Basin. So that's a little bit about me.
Great, thanks. And Eileen?
My name is Eileen Whitcomb, and I am a program specialist at the Oregon State Office. And I cover generally the disaster programs. So I work with essentially a lot of our livestock disaster programs as well as crop disaster programs. I have been with the agency for a little over 7 years. And I grew up in a rural farming community in Northern California and moved to Oregon about 5 years ago. And my parents followed me to Oregon, and they have our family cattle ranch in the Klamath Basin in Southern Oregon. So grew up around agriculture my entire life. So.
Great. Thank you both for introducing yourselves. Just a basic question. How many FSA offices are there in Oregon? Is there one in every county?
No, not one in every county. We have 23 offices in the state of Oregon. There's not one in every county. There's several offices that service more than one county. But with the 23 offices that we do have them staffed, which most states cannot say. So I think that's a very positive thing.
That's great. And so if they wanted to locate their closest office, what's the best way for a rancher to do that? The closest office to them.
That's actually a really good question. I think we have, if you Google up do a search of Oregon Farm Service Agency offices, you go to our state page and it'll show the list of counties. And if you click on each county that you're in Oregon, it'll populate with what county office you would go to for farm programs and also what you would go to for the farm loan to get farm loan services. So, I think that really right there is the best way to do that.
Okay, great, thanks. Now a little bit about the programs. What programs have you seen that have been most active or had the most response this year for livestock producers, maybe even this season in general?
Yeah, you betcha. So a lot of the ones that have been and Eileen, please help me if I know I'll stutter, and two, I know I'll forget something. So some of the ones that have been the biggest active ones this year have been the livestock forage program. They've been our LIP program for some of our losses due to heat, and a few of the other items we have going on. For the fire losses, the LIP, and that's the livestock indemnity program paid on deceased livestock. And then we have some of our ECP programs that help with the water, that help with well drilling. And we're just right now getting those going in certain areas of the state where those have been approved. Very few of those been approved due to some certain things with the approval of those. Definitely our ELAP on our water hauling, which is a program that is going to be expanded here in the coming week. Not only are we going to be able to pay you for your water hauling, we're also going to be paying you for some of your extended hauling of some feed needs, of some extra hay hauling for say, or whatever that feed may be to your livestock. So that's something that we'll be expanding here in the next week or two, and be looking about for that in our upcoming Gov delivery bulletins from our offices. So really, again, to recap, livestock forage program, livestock indemnity program, our ELAP program, primarily on the ELAP program, water hauling is and will be extended into some livestock feed need hauling, and our ECP is just getting going with some of our programs.
And you mentioned there, maybe I was mistaken, but did you mention you have a bulletin that maybe like a newsletter that you send out about these programs?
Yeah. So we send one out once a month on a statewide basis, and each county sends one out. And how you get on that list is you get on that list by providing your contact information to your local FSA office, and you'll get that monthly bulletin.
Josh had mentioned the Emergency Livestock Assistance Program for water hauling. It will also provide some fire payment due to losses on private acres. So we do have some fire. There's a couple different ways to go about fire losses. Essentially, federal land is under our LFP program, the Livestock Forage program, and under ELAP, we have some private acre fire assistance. So suggest that folks contact their county office if they've been affected by a wildfire this season or any future season, that if they are eligible for any type of assistance there.
Yeah, that's really great to know. I know a lot of our producers are dealing with that this year. So as we move in more into the winter, we'll definitely be providing more of those resources as far as wildfire goes. Congress recently passed a continuing resolution containing specific funding for disaster relief. What do you know about this CR that you can share with our ranchers today?
So that is a very good question. So what they provided, and this is at a very infinite stages. I know it was past 2 weeks ago. We should know more information, but this kind of took the agency by like a little bit of a pause. We knew it had been talked about. It had been discussed on the Hill, but this being this magnitude of $10 billion specifically for some disaster type programs kind of took everybody by surprise and shock. So we don't know exactly what that's going to be. What we have been told is it will go to some WIP plus is what it's looking like, some WIP plus for 2020 and 2021 losses on crop losses. There is an entitlement in there that we have noticed that is for $750 million, give or take, for livestock losses for 2021. I guess even for livestock producers, it doesn't necessarily have to be a livestock loss. How that's going to roll out and look, we don't know. We assume FSA will be the ones that will be implementing that program, but we don't know at this stage. But we do know that there is something in that CR, and definitely be looking forward, for stuff coming from FSA and other USDA organizations. But we do anticipate it being run through the CCC, the Commodity Credit Corporation. That's who funds most of the programs that we do and we administer, and that's where we get our dollars, and we assume that's how it's going to come in the future here.
Great. And do you, I know it sounds like you're still waiting on some more details, but as far as a timeline goes, when do you think you'll know more as far as that?
We certainly hope to know more in the next 2 or 3 weeks. I mean, it would be great for us to get the ball rolling and moving forward with this. We understand and we empathize with the livestock producers of Oregon. We understand what's going on out there. We understand the losses that have been happening. We understand and when I say losses, I'm not just talking livestock losses. I'm talking, producer input losses. I'm talking losses all the way around as far as red ink on a piece of paper, and it doesn't look good, and we understand that, and we want to be there to help the livestock producers of Oregon.
We've heard that some of the programs in the current Farm Bill create some gaps in providing necessary assistance for drought and CRP. What, if anything, do you see on the horizon that may bring additional assistance to our ranchers? Is there anything in livestock transportation, feed, and water hauling that you're aware of?
Yeah, I'm going to let Eileen talk a little bit about that. And I'm not putting her on the spot. We talked about this earlier today. And she has some she has some really rough figures to kind of go over. I guess some calculations of how that's going to go. Her and I got a sneak peek on this program this morning. I'll let her take that away.
Yes, so on the ELAP expanded program for feed transportation, essentially it's going to cover the cost of transporting livestock feed due to drought when hay and grazing resources have been depleted. So it's going to fall in line very similarly with our current livestock forage program as far as how that drought is triggered. It's based on the U.S. Drought Monitor. So if they qualify for in a D2 drought intensity for at least 8 consecutive weeks, or D3 or greater for any time in their county, then they would be eligible for ELAP feed transportation. So essentially in Oregon, when this launches, 35 of our 36 counties will be eligible for feed transportation. And essentially National has sent down a rate for each truckload that they had set at $6.60. And then that's going to be paid essentially per mile above normal. So we'll pay you essentially up to 1,000 miles of transportation costs to get that feed to the farm for animals. And then they take your normal year and compare it to the current year. So they would take, say last year or 2 years prior and look at what you normally would do and compare that to this year. And that's how they are going to make those payments. The payment factor is a 60%. So most of our payments, that's how they run, is a 60%. That's just the factor. And then producers who can certify to being socially disadvantaged, beginning farmer, veteran farmer, or limited resource can be paid at a 90% factor. Well, there's a little bit more on that one. They are going to have a tool available. We're hoping tomorrow they'll actually announce that. So here in the next day or two, hopefully we'll be able to provide that to Oregon cattlemen's and be able to, get that to you guys so that folks can start working that tool up.
Well, thank you for that information, Eileen. That's really helpful for us. Kind of wanted to jump back to the CR question again. How do you, maybe you already answered this and I wasn't able to recognize it, but how do you foresee FSA and Nrcs coordinating their efforts for the distribution and implementation of the continuing resolution funding?
Well, that's a good question. If we have programs, if part of them are handled by Nrcs and part of it's handled by FSA, usually what we do in that is we do a lot of the eligibility paperwork if we have a program in common, and Nrcs will do the technical work. We got a good working relationship in Oregon, and I really value that relationship that we have. And if we need technical guidance, then we look to them for that. And we have a very solid functioning. An example of that is Nrcs does CSP on our side. We're doing CRP, and we work hand in hand. We're working well with that. So that's what I see.
Great. Yeah, doubling the resources. That's even better.
Yeah.
I just had an offhand question. I know that there's a lot, maybe not a lot, but some ranchers who think that they might not qualify for these programs. What message would you say to them if they're thinking they're not going to qualify, so why even try?
Well, I think the very first thing that everybody needs to understand is our programs are 100% voluntary. We don't want to feel like we're pushing anything on anybody. We want to make sure that we are pushing the message out so folks have decisions to make. And I think that's the big thing that we get from our staff, and that's really one thing that I think that we do a good job of is as long as we have the tools in front of everybody so they can make the decision whether they even want to pick up the phone and call or walk through our door, because again, we are open for business, even COVID related, but that we can communicate one-on-one and and for those folks that think that they may not qualify, pick up the phone, come in, call, those are the things that I think are the true successes where we can help somebody that we really haven't helped before in one reason or another. So, and we've seen that recently with our CFAP program over the last year and a half. In that CFAP program, we help, and that's the coronavirus food assistance program. And in that program, we help a magnitude of growers across the state, whether it was fruit and vegetable growers or whether it was livestock producers we've never ever hit before. I mean, those folks were eligible for our programs. So I really, really encourage folks to reach out and contact our offices.
Great. Yeah, I think that's very valuable. Well, that concludes my questions that I have. I did want to ask and just open it up. Is there any hot new updates that we don't know about here yet that you might have that you could share for our producers?
I don't know if we have any new hot updates. I think the one that Eileen and I heard about this morning on the ELAP is going to be, it's going to be involved, but I wasn't personally, I wasn't as, I was pretty apprehensive of the whole program and how it would flow, but it has a pretty unique feel to it. And I think folks are going to like it. I really, really do. Especially those that have had to haul feed and purchase additional feed and things along those lines. So I think that's some positive stuff.
And Eileen, could you say again where they can reach you?
So as Josh had mentioned earlier, you can go online. You can quick Google search for USDA service center locations. We do have, it's a tool, it's called the Service Center Locator. It's the first thing that pops up via Google, generally speaking, when you come to look for a USDA, FSA, Nrcs office, essentially. And so they can reach out that way, and that gives all the contact information for the managers of the office, both on the Nrcs side and the FSA side when they see that. So that would be the best way for them to reach their local contacts. And then as far as reaching out to the state office, they can obviously reach out to Josh or myself or any of the other staff here at the state office, and we'd be happy to put them in contact with the folks that they need to see in the county office.
Great. Well, thank you both so much once again for all that you do to ensure that these programs are delivered in such a timely and effective manner, and to take the time out of your busy schedule just to have an interview with me today, just so we can help spread the information a little bit more. So I really appreciate it. Thank you, Josh, and thank you, Eileen, for being here with me today.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for having us.